This is getting into the levels where you're starting to get worried about whether or not there is truth to it. If this is true and this actually happens, I think I might have to go Levy out. Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It's me and it's Bugsy. I hope you are all happy and healthy, doing the things you love. It's a beautiful Tuesday, unbelievable weather here in Surrey. Bugsy's been in for a swim, but the ball sank, so now she's all confused and wants to go back in and swim some more. But she's doing the things that she loves with those that she loves to do them with. I hope you are too. Guys, do me a favour as we get into some transfer news, views and clues for you. It's an interesting one. Some new names that we'd like to see. Some new names or newish names that we absolutely do not want to see, that might even turn me Levy out should they manifest into reality. Dear God, please don't let this happen. And some managerial updates and some just interesting takes from around the zeitgeist in the Tottenham space. Guys, smash the like button for me if you're interested. Hit the subscribe if you enjoy this sort of content. Hit the notification bell if you want to see the latest drops first and freshest. And drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. And don't make any comments about my hair. I know what you're thinking. Who do you think he is? Fluffy Bonce. I had a shower this morning and I forgot to put the gel in it. Sue me. Anyway, before we get into transfer news, views and clues, we all know that a lot of that stuff is just fluff pieces like this. But we also know that you can't really do too much in the way of transfer spend unless you know what you have to spend and you know who's going to be spending it and you know how that looks, right? Who's the manager? Who's going to be the director of football? Who is going to be in charge? And unfortunately, at Tottenham Hotspur, I guess the reason why maybe there's just been no real tangible, tacit, or even tactile transfer strategies to get our teeth stuck into is because all of the above is up in the air. We don't know if Andrew's going to be here or otherwise. We don't know if Johan Lang is going to be here or otherwise. We don't know if Daniel Levy is going to be pulling the strings, or if the boxing promoter guy Turkey, or if Saudi or Qatar or anybody else is going to be full takeover, part takeover, a demi takeover. We don't know anything.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
And so without knowing any of these things, and all of these positions of power won't necessarily know right now whether they're still employed by Tottenham in 6 weeks' time, it makes the whole thing difficult. You've got Vinny coming in. He's not getting here until June. Is he going to want to come in and make immediate changes? If so, then you'd hope that those conversations are happening now. But when has Tottenham ever proven to be a club that is prepared for the next phase before the next phase arrives? This is why when you read stories like, from senior correspondents, if you like, football writers, Matt Laws, and insert top tier caliber names here and there, they're all saying, well, it's probable that Ange is done. In all likelihood, he's gone. But that might change if we win the Europa League. And whilst we can all speculate as fans on our various channels, or Twitter, or socials, or Reddit, you really need this decision, that decision, to be made already. You need to know what you're doing with Ange regardless. If you're going to wait and see if you win the cup because you can't make up your mind anyway, then that's a madness to me. Like, knowing the outcome of the cup does not mean, or rather not knowing the outcome of the cup yet, does not mean that you can't have plans in place for either direction now. The club should know, and obviously we won't know, but you hope, you just hope, you need this to be decided now. You need to know whether Daniel Levy has given Vinny the keys to the kingdom now, even though he's not starting until June, so that Vinny knows what he can do the second he gets here. And ideally, if he's as good as some people say he is, if he is overseeing the football side of the operation, then you'd hope that he's having those conversations with whoever he wants in now. And as I say, not knowing the outcome of the Europa League doesn't mean that you can't have made your mind up on what you do if we win or if we don't. Preferably, things become a lot easier if the outcome of a 90-minute game of football does not mean one way or the other that Ange is still here. Either, and I hope it's the latter, but it can be, and it possibly is easier if you say, because we want Poch, and Poch is willing to come, but that can't happen until next summer, 26, even though that's more complicated than it looks because of, as Johnny said yesterday on the channel, the World Cup doesn't finish until late June, and we'll already be on, or July, and we'll already be on our pre-season tour, and so you're already 6 weeks behind whatever transfer work you can do then if he doesn't get here. So that makes that whole year, that whole season, and that whole transfer thing difficult. The fact that maybe there's a chance, a small chance, that you can prize him away from America, the audacity of that outcome beforehand, I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
But maybe that whole kind of complexity puts the Poch thing on ice. Even though I'd love to see it, it does make it very difficult. But just for once, you need Tottenham to show a level, or you hope that they have, even if you won't see it, you'd hope that they have made their mind up, and that in an ideal world, the fortunes of people like Lang, people like Scott Munn, people like Ange are already known, and that win or lose, the decision is made. Not if we win they stay, if they lose we go in a different direction, because that binary outcome will mean that you again can't make your transfer policies, you can't make your hiring decisions, you can't promise the new guys that aren't here yet that could otherwise be informed and arranged in the background, even though not formalized, if the decision was, regardless of the outcome, Ange and this whole thing is over with. Well, if that's the decision, then great, because that allows Vinny to be getting on with business before he's formally in charge of bringing in whoever he wants in directorship roles, in footballing CFO roles, whatever, and coaching staff and manager et al. The futures of Ryan Mason and Matty Wells, all of those things. And by the way, those things need to be, like, if we are doing a clear out at the end of the summer, I think we have to say goodbye to Ryan Mason. I think we have to say goodbye to Matty Wells. I think we need a new crop that are coming through with a manager that's an ecosystem that knows what they want, that doesn't have the kind of amateur hour feel of a guy that just rocks up and inherits what he's given, doesn't feel like a man that's used to the resources of a Premier League operation, and that Daniel Levy was more than happy to oblige because it meant he could cut the coaching staff wage bill and all those things as well in so employing Ange. But we need to go in a direction, and the unknowns, to me, create a massive roadblock around all of those decision makings. Is Langer scouting players now on the presumption that he's here next season? Is Ange Postecoglou having conversations around what he needs for next season? Or is he sitting there thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be here or not, so what's the point? Like, the energy, the confusion, the unknowns, the shades of grey that are everywhere at Tottenham make this area of the window, the season, the sort of temporal climate that we're in, incredibly difficult for any of us to really sort of chew. We can chew the fat, but, you know, it's not just budgets that are unknown. You know, how many times do we see on my channel, on our other channels, playing the kind of buy-sell loan game, let's make believe hypothetical budgets, right? Should we win, we have 150 million. If we don't win, we have 60 million. So players have to be sold before they can be bought. We even see the big guys in the corporate, in the media, in the journalist space, saying things like yesterday, Tottenham have to sell before they can buy. In a world where we don't win the Europa League, in a world where we do, that's not the case. And I get it, right? Like, obviously there's this big giant line in the sand, sliding doors moment at Tottenham Hotspur that's going to dictate everything, right? The short term and the medium term, the present and the future is going to be shaped fundamentally by what happens from Thursday, the following Thursday, and then the 2 Thursdays after that, hopefully. Win, everything can change. Lose, not as much can change, but given that one of our potential opposition are also having their own sliding doors moment, and given, as I said in the last video, all of the variables outside of Tottenham's control, Manchester United not isolated in that variable complexity in the cocktail. Nottingham Forest, near pitch perfect transfer strategy over the last 18 months. Suddenly they've got £80 million more to spend because they're in the Champions League for the first time in decades. Does that mean that they can become a little bit more reckless, like a lot of teams do? They've got to juggle 2 games a week for the first time in forever. That is an unknown for them. But for sure, if they can find a way to continue on their track record of getting the right holes and square pieces for the puzzle, doesn't sound right. Square pegs for square holes. Then God knows what they can be like next season. God knows. Right, Chelsea, World Club Cup, massive money. And they've got an owner that can push money around on a bit of paper like it's origami. Arsenal aren't going away. Massive Champions League revenue, and again they'll be in it next year. Liverpool, champions, new confidence, and they're going through a massive transition of players this summer in all likelihood, because Arne Slot hasn't really done that yet. Manchester City, obviously going to be a no-brainer that they're still there. And then Newcastle and Villa, the new boys to the table. They're not going away either. They've got their own problems to figure out, their own opportunities, their own strengths and weaknesses. But Tottenham and United, massive, could get left behind if we screw this up. But for Tottenham, it's more than just the game of football. We don't know if we're being invested in. I'm sure there's something happening. I'm sure there are. The money that was invested in December, the fact that there was misinformation being pumped around the news people, the news articles. Was it 12 million? Was it 35 million? At what price point? Some were saying 12, some were saying 35. I think it was 35 million, according to the shares in issue via Companies House announcements. But what was that for? Non-disclosure agreements apparently signed with the lady whose name escapes me right now, and her Qatari consortium. The boxing, that guy, Turkey, right? Didn't mention Tottenham, but he said he loves the stadium. It's a brilliant thing, and English people love football and boxing. We're going to be doing more here. Like, is there any interest there? What about America, Texter, Blitzer? Those things are happening. There's so much happening in the background, guys. There's so much happening that it makes it incredibly difficult to be able to get any real sense. But you just hope that Tottenham Hotspur, for once, have made their decisions before we know the outcome, and that the outcome of the game doesn't shape the decision. That they're either here next season or they're not. And we know that. And that Vinny can be in the background doing what he has to do now, so that when he gets here, his first day 1, like when Donald Trump said he'd fix the war on day 1, can Vinny fix the scouting and the coaching team on day 1, if that's in his mandate? If it is, you can't wait until May to know, because as soon as that's done, then the players go away, and then you're in the window. And you don't know if Ange is going to be here. You don't know if Scott Munn's going to be here. You don't know if Langer's going to be here. Ryan Mason. You don't know if any of them are going to be here. You still haven't figured that out yet. Come on, you don't have to wait to know. You should know now and have the decision made. And if you can, great. If you can't, then wake up! I don't really understand what it is that these people are employed and paid such high amounts of money for, where they have to wait for certainty before they can make a decision. It's madness. It's madness. I don't know. I feel like it's time to move on to some of these stories, guys. As I say, the managerial seat is up for debate. You've got Niko Kovac on the list this morning. He's been out there for a little while, and that is an interesting name. For me, guys, Borussia Dortmund, he's a good manager, but he's not a project manager. Wherever he goes, he has ups and downs, but volatility follows him wherever he goes. There is never a quiet moment, it seemingly, and there's arguments that always manifest. I don't know if it's ego, I don't know too much about the guy, but from what I've read, he's not the sort of horse that you saddle to for a long ride. He might be the sort of guy that you want next to in a short-term impact situation, but that's not what Tottenham need right now, is it? Or is it? That's the other thing. Do you kick the can until Pochettino's ready? And that might be 2027, because, as I said before, the World Cup ending so late, we're going to have another problem next summer. And it's too much on the line right now. So maybe a 2-year guy is the guy. I don't know. But either way, Kovac, interesting manager, good manager, successful. I just think he's a bit problematic and troublesome. And I don't think we need too many more. I think there's already too many Chiefs, not enough Indians at this football club. That's why a clear out is necessary. Next one on the list. We've spoken about this before. Scott Parker. Currently at Burnley, did brilliantly. Pragmatic. He'll probably do a better job in the Premier League next year at Burnley than Company did, because he'll set his team up to play accordingly. Now, I don't want to go back to pragmatism first. I want balance that errs on the side of positivity. That's what I would like to see, but someone that contemplates defence, that practices defence, and that spends more time on the training ground organising the team than rinse and repeating the same thing over and over again that has proven to be too ineffective and ineffectual at this level on the consistent. Either way, Scott Parker, whether you like him or not, Graham Bailey this morning has come out and said he would absolutely love to come to Tottenham. There'd be lots of interest there. I'm sure there would be, ex-Tottenham boy. It would require £10 million of compensation, which I do not believe will happen, because money is tight, allegedly. I don't think it should be, but that's the story, that's the news, that's in the zeitgeist. So are we really going to drop 10 milski on a Scott Parker who's not really the right fit, especially when we've reshaped most of our squad to be playing a different system, a high line, a progressive football, and he's more pragmatic? It doesn't make any sense to me, apart from just a natural name in the kind of out there to be gobbled up by mouthpieces and spat back out again. I don't think it makes any sense. If you're going to sack Ange, that's a £5 million payoff, and you're going to pay £10 million to Scott Parker's previous employer Burnley. Are you really? £15 million already down the tube for a guy that's not proven it at this level, for a guy that isn't set up to manage in the way that the team has been restructured and rebuilt around? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to wah both of those and say we're going a different direction. But they're the two names today. But the manager does have to be sorted out first, right? After that, guys, we've got some stories out for you. Mark Gahey, again, every day. Mark Gahey, favourites at Tottenham. Newcastle United, second favourites to sign him. Liverpool sniffing around. And Chelsea are as well. He's got a year left on his contract. Tottenham were rejected, allegedly, for £70 million in January. What does that mean for the price point in the summer? I would say if Palace want to try and renegotiate a new contract with him, time is running out. They're in the FA Cup final. Will FA Cup final successes against Manchester City, no matter how unlikely that might seem on paper, if it happens, will that change Mark Gahey's approach to Crystal Palace and want to be a part of what Oliver Glasner is building there? It's something very, very interesting. Everyone seems to be pulling in the same direction and singing from the same hymn sheet. He has got them playing the right tune for the right instrument. And to me, I think that of all of the names that are mentioned and all of the potential outcomes, being entirely honest, the only reason why he would want to come to Tottenham ahead of Newcastle, ahead of Liverpool, for me, would be playing time in a world where Romero leaves, the fact that Tottenham are a bigger club than Palace, and the fact that they're still in London and you might not have to leave, and if you're settled and you have your friends and your family all settled into where you are. Newcastle United are on the cusp of something impressive, right? They've just won their first cup in 6 decades. They are a team that is an exciting prospect because of their owners and what they potentially could do, although that hasn't really manifested yet. You have a manager that knows how to set a team up to get the best out of every moment of that squad, every inch, every yard. He knows how to play the game, the dark arts master. And it's consistent, it's structured, it's organised, and it's settled, and it's just humming along nicely, going in the right direction. Chelsea are a batshit crazy organisation. You don't know what they're going to do, but what you can always guarantee is that they'll find a way to spend more money, and they'll always be sniffing around at the higher echelons. If Chelsea are really interested, you're probably going to go to Chelsea above Tottenham, especially if one of the only reasons why you'd stay in London or go to Tottenham is to stay in London. Well, Chelsea is in London as well, so that's a crossing off. In terms of historical success, Chelsea have the draw. In terms of current positioning, Chelsea have the tick. In terms of Champions League football next year, well, Chelsea are looking likely for that, for sure, but it's not certain yet. Tottenham, Europa League winners, does that massively paper over the cracks of what is a fundamental concern at the football club? Your bread and butter being so unbelievably burnt. You've toasted it too much at the moment in the Premier League. Those things will absolutely play a part of the conversation for a Marc Guéhi. And if you don't sign Marc Guéhi to replace Romero, who, for all intents and purposes, has said, yep, I want out, it's done, I'm out of this place. It's not even like a secret anymore. It's a known given.
There are known knowns.
That Romero is hoping for the best for what happens in Europe, but he wants out. He wants to go to sunnier climes. And Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid will have to pony up the readies, especially if it's true that Tottenham don't have the money, which, again, I disagree with fundamentally. We can find it if we want to. It's whether there is the willingness to do that. And how much of the willingness in the owner is currently dependent on what new investment looks like. Again, harks back to this grey zone, this kind of no man's land of uncertainty. In every possible department that you look at, there is absolutely nothing but uncertainty at Tottenham Hotspur. Why would Marc Guéhi want to join us instead of something that's more settled, and the clear direction of path, the travel is one way, and it's the right direction. It might take detours, but it's going in the right direction. At Tottenham, we don't know where we're going right now. So the only other reason why Marc Guéhi would choose Tottenham, outside of money, of course, which, well, we know Daniel Levy doesn't really want to pay more than 200 grand a week to anybody. Like I say, I think that's going to happen. It will change. I really do think. I said it. I might have to concede and look like a muddy bozo next season, but I still believe that there will be a new club's highest earner at the club by the end of the summer. But apart from money, the only other reason why Marc Guéhi won't want to get on board Tottenham's project is if it's exciting, and the fact that you're kind of buying the stock at the bottom. You know, you're buying the market on March the 1st, 2009, when everything looks like chaos around you, and it looks like the share price of the overall economy, the overall stock exchange couldn't be weaker. But those that bought it that day and held on saw essentially a 15-year bull market following. Is there that prescience that Marc Guéhi and his advisors can see that Tottenham could begin a resurgence? Maybe, maybe not. I doubt it. For me, it's a lot easier to go somewhere else with more certainty. But here's the story. Romero and Bentancur, both targets for Atletico Madrid. I won't bore you with that one. Both of them can go, in my opinion. As long as we can replace them. I understand. I saw Irish Hotspur yesterday. Dave was saying, you want him gone because you think he's being disloyal or whatever. You've still got to improve on him. Where do you go? And I take the point. But if he doesn't want to be here, I don't want him here either. We're not desperate. Maybe we are, but I'm not going to pretend like I am. Jack Grealish, the name continues to be around. Will he take a pay cut? How low would it go? What would we have to pay for him? Will we do business with Manchester City? For all of the reasons that are obvious answers to those questions that I've just asked being no. No. I don't see this one happening, but the story won't go away. Is it lazy journalism? Is it just recycled news? I don't know, but I just don't see it happening. We've got enough wingers, and I think that if we're looking for leadership figures that are more mature, he isn't the guy. He isn't the guy, right? He's the 50-year-old who's walking around Marbella with his shirt off, still rocking an earring, and trying to push his hair one way or the other to cover up the bald spots, and chatting up 20-year-olds. Zoom forward 10 years, that'll be me. But yeah, like Jack Grealish is not the guy that we need right now. No way, shape or form. Much as I admire him and I like the player and his talent, he's not what we need in any way, shape or form. For the same reasons maybe that, like Johnny correctly says, that if money's tight, you don't want to waste what you do have on Matisse Tell when you need everything else in place. I'll tell you one thing we won't see though, and this story won't go away. And by the way, hang around because we've got an absolute whopper of a story for you after this one. Oh God, I hope it's not true. But guys, the next one is Jarrod Bowen. I will breeze past this, but the story is consistent. It's been out again and again and again and again that Tottenham have made inquiries, so far rebuked, around Jarrod Bowen's availability, that he might want out of West Ham and that he might want to go somewhere else. The story is that Liverpool would want to go in for him, but they've just signed Mo Salah on the new deal. So do they really need him? Would he go there and play in that role? He's not going to play ahead of Mo Salah, so where else can he play? Well, he can play in the 9 role for West Ham, but that's not his traditional thing, is it? He likes to play as a right-sided forward. But if you're up against Mo Salah, how many times are you going to play? Do you want to go, if you're Jarrod Bowen, do you really want to go to Liverpool and play second fiddle at the most peak important time of your year? I would argue, I don't know, probably not. But then if your only other alternative is Tottenham, and you're a West Ham through and through, well, you're not West Ham through and through, you came from Hull, but you're like West Ham's boy. Even if West Ham contemplated it, what would happen to your legacy as a West Ham legend if you went to Tottenham? I would say it's probably in the trash. So I can't see it happening. So we're going to move on. But for what it's worth, the article says 40 to 50 million pound. No chance. West Ham will want about 100, I would imagine, for him because he is that good and his contract goes until 2030. Last story for you guys, and here's the absolute whopper. Oh, actually, there is one other story. Pierce Charles, goalkeeper for Sheffield Wednesday. Apparently, Tottenham are interested in him. Don't know anything about him, so I won't, won't hark on. But I'll go and look into a bit more detail if that story gets momentum. But we do need to talk about Vicario. We definitely do, because that is a shaky issue that I'm not sure is going to be anything other than continually problematic unless he changes his levels of confidence and security at the back. But the story, guys, and dear God, please don't let this be true, is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. 110 grand a week that guy gets paid. 110 grand a week. And he scored, I think, 3 goals and 2 assists this season. He's a shocking player. He's worse than Richie, in my opinion, by a country mile. And he's available for free, apparently, in the summer. And so it's not just, by the way, like a terrible aggregator that's just making things up or running with someone else's bullshit story. This is getting into the levels where you're starting to get worried about whether or not there is truth to it. That Tottenham are very interested in signing Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a free transfer. Now, I get it and I hear you. Typical Daniel Levy. If this is true, and this actually happens, I think I might have to go Levy out. Even though I'm Levy, figure it out anyway. I'm Levy change and I'm open-minded to any outcome. If this sort of story manifests into reality, then I might have to go Levy out because I can't get on board it on any level. He is atrocious, and you'd have to pay me. I don't care if he's free. That's not cheap enough. Free ain't cheap enough, bro. But that's the story, and as I say, it's creeping into some of the higher echelons of the tiers, and it's terrifying, isn't it? It's terrifying. There are other free transfers out there, by the way. Jonathan David is one of them. You'd rather him all day long. I'd put him at the top of the list probably anyway of the given striker market. Now, I know it's going to be difficult to convince him to come in a world where you don't win the Europa League. And I know that it's easier if you do win the Europa League, but the blemish of where we finished in the league this season is not a blemish, it's a chasm. It's a giant big cavity in your tooth that won't go away when you're trying to pitch the sail. Yes, Champions League football would be extraordinarily attractive. Yes, the stadium. Yes, London. Yes, we have the wiggle room in the money, especially if we win. Yes, a new project can be something you can get on board with if you get the right manager. If all of that stuff can happen, it all has to happen at the same time. Right now, you have so many moving pieces, guys. None of them are known. All of them are uncertain. And if you get one of them wrong, then the whole thing, the house of cards, can come tumbling down again. But for God's sake, I don't care whether you have to wait until deadline day, you still don't sign Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Sorry for the long one. I might even split this up over 2 events because I mean, it's 33 minutes of your time. But basically, there's a hell of a lot going on. And I need the club for once to have made the decision before the outcome is known, so that the people that are the next stages in that kind of domino effect, they can get ahead of the curve and make their decisions, so that even though it looks like it's chaos, in reality, it is a duck on water. Chances of that happening at Tottenham? Nil point. Like, subscribe and comment, guys. And as always, bye-bye.